For Sarah's dream. Building the greenhouse wasn't just about growing plants. It was about keeping Sarah's dream alive. My wife had always wanted a self-sustaining garden, a place where neighbors could share food, where kids could learn about nature, where life could flourish. When cancer took her from me, I promised myself I'd make that dream a reality. For 6 months, I worked tirelessly. I secured every permit, hired a certified contractor, and ensured that the greenhouse met every regulation down to the last detail. It stood 12 feet tall, with reinforced glass panels, a sturdy steel frame, and an advanced irrigation system. The neighbors loved it. Mrs. Chin, who lived next door, asked if she could grow some of her Chinese vegetables in it during the winter. I said yes, of course. That was Sarah's vision, bringing people together. But not everyone was happy. Karen Thompson, the HOA president, had been watching since the first day of construction. Every time she drove past in her oversized SUV, her eyes would narrow, lips pursed in disapproval. She never said a word, just scribbled furiously in that little leather notebook of hers. Then the letters started coming. 3 days after the greenhouse was completed, I received my first violation notice. Unapproved architectural modification. I sent back copies of all my permits and city approvals, confident this was just a misunderstanding. The next day, a second letter arrived, then a third. Then the fines began, $1, $100 per day for noncompliance. When I requested an appeal, Karen scheduled it for Tuesday at 2 p.m., a time she knew damn well I was at work. They didn't want a discussion. They wanted me to give up, but I held my ground. Until the night they destroyed everything. I woke to the sound of shattering glass at 3 a.m. My heart pounded as I stumbled outside in my pajamas. My stomach dropped. A contractor's truck was pulling away. Where my greenhouse had stood just hours before was now a ruin of twisted metal and broken glass. The irrigation system was torn apart, bags of soil dumped carelessly across the lawn. But worst of all, the seeds. The seed collection Sarah and I had gathered from our travels. Rare tomatoes from Italy, Thai chili peppers, heirloom strawberries, scattered, ruined. And there stood Karen, arms crossed, smug. "You should have followed the rules," she sneered, waving a document in front of me. An emergency removal order, citing vague safety concerns. Behind her, I could see other HOA board members peering through their windows, watching like vultures. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just started taking pictures. My hands trembled with rage as I sifted through the wreckage, until something caught my eye, a small notebook half buried in the dirt. Karen's notebook. I flipped through the pages. My name, my property, dates and times of HOA meetings I hadn't even known about. And then I saw it, a demolition order, signed by Karen, dated 3 weeks before the so-called emergency vote. They had planned this from the start. But Karen had made one crucial mistake. She didn't know who she was dealing with. And she certainly didn't know about the security cameras I had installed after the first violation letter. I walked back inside, notebook in hand, my rage sharpening into something more useful, a plan. Karen wanted to play hardball. She had no idea what was coming. My first call was to Tom, an old friend, a retired real estate lawyer with a deep personal hatred for HOAs. When I finished explaining, he didn't even hesitate. They destroyed your property without proper legal grounds? That's not just an HOA overreach. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. By noon the next day, Tom had drafted a legal complaint. I delivered it personally to the HOA office, where Karen sat behind her polished desk, sipping an overpriced latte. She barely glanced at the papers before smirking. "A lawsuit? How predictable," she sneered. "The HOA has deep pockets. Do you really think you can win?" I leaned in. "I don't need to win in court, Karen. I just need to make enough noise that the board realizes you're more of a liability than an asset." For the first time, her smirk faltered, and then the real battle began. Word spread fast. Mrs. Chin was furious, telling anyone who would listen how much Karen had overstepped. The local newspaper picked up the story. Soon, HOA members' phones were ringing off the hook, with angry homeowners demanding answers. One board member admitted in a recorded phone call that they never actually voted on an emergency demolition. That clip? It went viral. Karen tried damage control, sent out a carefully worded statement about miscommunication and misunderstandings. Too late, Tom filed an injunction. Within days, a judge ruled in our favor, halting all HOA actions against me and freezing their ability to collect fines. Homeowners started pushing for a full audit of HOA finances. Karen? She doubled down, sent out a desperate letter to all HOA members. The integrity of our neighborhood is under attack. Certain individuals want to dismantle the HOA, which will lead to plummeting property values and chaos in our community. Stand with me to protect what we built. This time, nobody was buying it. A neighbor, Raymond, knocked on my door the next morning, shaking his head. People are done with her, he said. We're calling a vote. If we push hard enough, we can have her removed. I nodded. Let's do it. HOA bylaws allowed homeowners to call a special vote if 30% of the community signed petition. We got double that within a week. The emergency meeting was packed. For the first time, Karen didn't look smug. She looked cornered. This is ridiculous, she scoffed. Without my leadership, this neighborhood will fall apart. Tom stood up. No, Karen. What this neighborhood needs is someone who doesn't abuse their power. Let's vote. Ballots were counted in front of everyone. The final numbers weren't even close. Karen was voted out in a landslide. As she stormed out, she turned to me, her eyes burning with fury. You'll regret this, she hissed. I smiled. I doubt it. With Karen gone, the community came together. The new HOA board reversed all her excessive fines, refunded homeowners she had unfairly charged, and put in place new rules. No president would ever have unchecked power again. And as for my greenhouse, the neighborhood helped me rebuild it, bigger and stronger than before. One Saturday morning, as I stood in my garden watering newly planted vegetables, Mrs. Chin walked up, holding a small bag of seeds. For Sarah's dream, she said softly, placing them in my hand. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. For Sarah. As the sun rose over my restored garden, I knew one thing for certain. We had won.